Give me 1 minute, please. What's the plan for today? So 1 minute. So plan for today is is how we can integrate Jenkins with Kubernetes. Okay, and I believe, guys, because I think we have already shared basics videos of Kubernetes. By chance, for those guys who don't know Kubernetes, so at least they know some vocabulary about the Kubernetes, or maybe in that classes. Sorry, I've covered how to install Kubernetes also in your local laptop. So you can install the Kubernetes in local laptop and do the demo with the Jenkins. Okay, so but before, guys, I start this topic, how we can integrate Jenkins with the Kubernetes. First, we have to understand the use case, why we have to integrate Jenkins with the Kubernetes. Okay, so very interesting topic. So before this, guys, very quickly, very quickly, I just want to give you one more time in a 2 minutes the summary of Kubernetes and the use of Kubernetes, just as a quick revision. So discussing on the Jenkins will be simple there. Okay, so let me give some basics concept of Kubernetes. So you guys know the Docker. Okay, so we use Docker as a tool. Okay, and we have our images somewhere. What image content or container image content or container image or Docker image content, they contain the base environment, the OS, and plus they normally have the app also. This part you know. And with the help of Docker kind of tool or Docker engine, we'll ask this image and ask to launch this OS. And this OS, you guys know, is called container. Right? So this is a very basic thing you know about Docker. Okay, but nowadays there is very common thing. Almost all the app we launch with the help of Docker or some tool, something like Docker. And typically, if you go in bigger world and industry, a lot of use cases, you see hundreds and thousands of containers running for multiple use cases, multiple workload, or multiple different kind of setups. Okay, so so I'm so sorry, guys. I have forgot to share my screen. So, so nothing you miss here. We have a Docker, and we ask the Docker to get the image, and from the image, whatever you have inside this image, your OS, your server configuration, your PHP code, Python code, Java code. Okay, so whatever you have in the image, Docker will launch entire environment for you. Means they launch entire OS or container for you. Okay, but if you have 1 or 2 or 10 or 50, 100 container, maybe one one Docker program or engine would be enough. Okay, but technically thousands of container we have to launch. So our setup would be something like this. Okay, we give one dedicated system or server or virtual machine, and this virtual machine content Docker. And on the top of Docker, we launch one container, two container, three container. Obviously, we have a constraint, right? The container also need RAM, CPU, storage. Okay, and the maximum storage they can consume is the total storage we provide to this server. So let's say this is my virtual machine. If my virtual machine has, or my instance has 8 GB RAM, so maximum 8 GB in totality RAM we can provide to all this content. And obviously, maybe some app might need 2 GB, this might need 1 GB, they might need 4 GB. Obviously, we have technically we can run limited containers. And that is the reason this is a very common setup. Okay, we provide one more virtual machine, one more instance with some more new resources. Again, we install Docker one more time here and ask Docker to launch some more container here. Again, this container will get the storage CPU from the base OS from this VM. Again, they're limited. We launch one more. So technically, these are known as node 1, node 2, node 3. So in this kind of environment, okay, in this kind of environment, lots of things we need. We need some program who check that if we looking for to launch one more container, which node is free, where we have resources free, in IP1 or IP2 or IP3. Let's say IP3, RAM and CPU free to go and launch the container there. Or I will need somebody who who check by chance if this container goes down. So this can be normal Docker don't have. If this container goes down, so I want somebody just keep on monitoring. If this goes down, they ought to launch this container in the same computer or maybe in the other computer where they want. Or by the time if the entire node goes down, okay, so I want somebody who keep on checking. If the node goes down, we can't do anything, or maybe network goes down, we can't do anything. So if you want somebody who will, move this container to other nodes, and like this, there might be some more facilities we need. So these are not the responsibility of Docker. Docker responsibility normally is to launch the container in the computer in the node wherever they're running. Okay, but if you ask this Docker and say, can you launch this guy? Can you monitor this guy? Can you relaunch this guy? We might have some way, some trick, but technically, as such, Docker won't do for you. So that is the reason we need some container management tool, and the name of this tool is called Kubernetes. So Kubernetes has a capability. We can ask the Kubernetes that that you will work as a manager for me or as a master for me, and just keep on monitoring all this node, keep on controlling all this Docker, or maybe Cry or Podman or whatever you guys know, this kind of tool. Go and manage. Me as a user, okay, user will connect to you as a Kubernetes, okay, and ask you to launch one container. And obviously, guys, when you ask to launch the container, you have to provide the container image. So as a user or admin guy or IT guy, okay, I will, guys, by chance, I would like to again tell you that today's topic is Jenkins integration with Kubernetes. In 5 minutes, I'm just giving quick summary of Kubernetes. By chance, those who have no idea of Kubernetes. Then we move to how to integrate Jenkins with the Kubernetes. Okay. So let's say I'm a user and say I want to launch the container. Now you don't have to now manually go to your node 2 or node 3 and contact Docker and say Docker run command to launch it. Now we don't have to do this. Our single point of contact is Kubernetes master. We contact to this guy. This guy has their own IP address. This guy has their own port number. This guy is running in a different node altogether, known as a master node. So we contact to their IP and their port number, okay, and say this is the image I have. Can you please help me to launch this image? Now this Kubernetes master is so intelligent. They have some kind of internal program. Okay, this program they say I know I have 3 node where we have Docker engine, or I can say there we have 3 worker node. Why worker? Because these guys have to work for us, or maybe sometimes on a slave node. Okay, so Kubernetes say my slave node 1 is full, slave node 2 is full, 3 is free. We can launch the container there. So they say I will help you take the request, contact to this guy, contact to their Docker, and ask to launch the container. So this entire management I will do for you. Only thing is, as user, tell me which image you want to launch. Okay, so technically, if you talk about user, you can think as like client. And it's part of this, guys. If any client, any client who wanted to contact to any server or master is also like a server. Okay, you need some kind of command or tool. So in the Kubernetes world, the command that we use is called kubectl. So kubectl is a very common command we use. By this command, okay, by this command will tell to the master that this is my need. I want to launch my container from this image. So kubectl is a very commonly used command that we use in the Kubernetes. Okay, so if you are a user, for example, this is my Windows. This is my Windows. Okay, and let's say I want to become a user, so I'll open my command prompt. Okay, and my Windows, I should have a kubectl command that I have by chance. If you hit enter, I have this command. There's no error command, so I can use this command. And this command, somewhere I say I want to use an image called, let's say, Ubuntu or CentOS. Always there's some option we have. I just hit enter, and this command will finally contact to finally contact to Kubernetes server. But obviously, guys, for this Kubernetes server, you should have with you. Otherwise, how they connect? So for today's demonstration, what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch a Kubernetes cluster. Okay, how? There's a tool called Minikube I'm going to use. So in my video, guys, I always share you how to install Kubernetes cluster. So I think you guys have done this. So let me do very quickly. So I have Minikube, I already installed. So I'm asking Minikube that I would like to start my Kubernetes cluster. This was one click, guys. in 5 minutes, your Kubernetes cluster will come up. So there's a tool who help you to launch a cluster for Kubernetes. Okay, so finally this tool is going to launch this master node, and plus they also give launching some slave node internally. Okay, after this master node come up, I from my I am a user from my Windows, I use this command and by using this command I will contact to Kubernetes and tell my requirement, and accordingly they will fulfill my requirement. Okay, so till here, guys, pretty clear. This concept I already explained in my video also, if you go through the video. Okay, why I draw this diagram again? because because today, okay, user would be not me, not my Windows. Okay, today the user of Kubernetes would be Jenkins. That's the one change we are going to do. So I, as a human being, if I run this command kubectl, then it will look like a manual thing. Okay, so I don't want to go for manual thing. So I don't want to become a user to manually run this command. Okay, I will tell my Jenkins will go, okay, and contact to Kubernetes instead of the user, or instead of human being. And Jenkins is the one who gonna run kubectl command for you. And obviously, guys, if Jenkins want to contact to Kubernetes, okay, they require kubectl command, or they should know the language of kubectl command. And you guys know in the Jenkins, if you want to tell something to Jenkins, we need a plugins. So if you want, Jenkins will go and contact to Kubernetes, right? So Jenkins should know the language that kubectl command use normally to contact to Kubernetes. So for this, we have to install plugin in the Jenkins. So from here, guys, let me start our first practical. Okay, so in my case, my Jenkins system is already there. So first I'm going to dashboard. I'll go to manage Jenkins, and what exactly I'm doing here, I'm going to install a plugin that we always do, because today plan is to contact to Kubernetes. So plugin will be obviously Kubernetes. In my case, I already installed this plugin. Okay, so but let me give you the name, the plugin that you have to install. Let me search here. So name of the plugin that you have to install is Kubernetes. One minute. Let me go. I don't know why it's not coming up fastly. Yeah, this plugin here to install. Okay, not this one, not this one. They will automatically install for you as a dependency. But main plugin that you install is Kubernetes plugin. This will integrate Jenkins with the Kubernetes. So why I'm installing this plugin? Because my plan is my plan is Jenkins. I want Jenkins will go to Kubernetes and connect. Instant we as a user go. And if Jenkins want to go and connect, obviously Jenkins should know how to also communicate. They should know their language the way we use kubectl command. So for this, we have to install a plugin here. So in my case, I already installed. Okay, so this is one thing. But my point, guys, over here is why we need Jenkins to integrate with Kubernetes. This concept I haven't explained you yet. So I will explain you in a minute why we need Kubernetes with the Jenkins. That's very important to know. Okay, but let's first understand some basics, more some vocabulary here. Then I'll come back to our main use case. Then we'll show you how to integrate further. Okay, so I think my cluster already come up, or they are launching still. So Kubernetes, guys, behind the scenes use Docker. In my case, in this cluster, this cluster is launched by Minikube. So if I contact to Kubernetes manually, I have to use a command called kubectl. Okay, but one more interesting thing to know. Let's say this is my Kubernetes cluster. This is a short form we write, right? And I'm as a user here. And if a user want to contact to the Kubernetes cluster, okay, user as a human being, you need a command called kubectl. Okay, but understand one thing, guys. Kubeshell is just a client command. But if you want to use any client command, two or three information you have to provide. First, the IP address of Kubernetes cluster. Second, on which port number this cluster running. Third, the username, and fourth, the password. This four information at least you have to provide through this command. Otherwise, how they know which IP they go to go and which username password to use for authentication part. Okay, so if you want to use your Kubernetes kubeshell command from, let's say in my case is Windows, right? This command I have to first provide this information, and without this information, I won't able to take my request to this guy, and obviously this guy won't do anything for me. Okay, so this is one thing. And second thing, okay, typically if you use kubeshell command, what is your final intention? Intention here is you take your request and say, I have one image. Let's say image name is called STD. Okay, so I have this image. I'll tell my Kubernetes, take this image and launch a container. So Kubernetes will go in their worker node somewhere. They ask to provide this image and name. The system will download this image. After download the image, they launch a container for you. That's the final need, right? But in the Kubernetes world, right, they don't use the word container as such. Instead of container, they use the word called pod. So guys, right now, if you don't know Kubernetes, so think like pod is equal to container. There's some small difference. So those who know Kubernetes, they know the difference by chance. But those who by chance don't know what is Kubernetes in detail, think container is exactly like pod. Okay, so a Kubernetes perspective, in the Docker world, we always use the word container, but in the Kubernetes, instead of container, we use the word called pod. So technically, if you are a user and you want to tell to Kubernetes, I want to launch a container, instead you say, I want to launch a pod. That's what we say in the Kubernetes world. Okay, so let me show you this demo. I'm still waiting my my Kubernetes cluster come up, and technically in my case it will come and launch in my virtual machine. So my virtual machine is still maybe they're running behind the scene. Okay, so so they're still launching. I don't know, they have some issue right now. It was just running 1 minute please. I keep on switching my network. It looked good. Yeah, it's launched, guys, finally. Okay, so it's launched. And how can I confirm very quickly? So I am a user, for example, let's forget for a minute as a Jenkins. I'm a user and I'll check I have a connectivity to my cluster or not. So I can use the command called kubectl. And I say cluster info, can you show me the info of a cluster? So this command say, I know this cluster is running in this IP address and this port number, and they are running. And as such, we don't have a connectivity, otherwise maybe some kind of error might come up. So interesting thing here is, okay, kubectl command is connecting to these systems. So what they need IP port number, using a password. But in this command, guys, I haven't provided anything. So where they're picking this information, and this is very important to know. In a minute, I will explain you when I go for Jenkins. This part is very important to know. Okay, so technically, guys, in Kubernetes world, in your client system or user system, you have to use this command. This command needs this information. So rather than we keep on providing this information again and again in the command line, we can provide. But rather we type again and again. What we do, we put all this information in one file, and by chance this file is called config file. Okay, so in my local system, in my Windows, somewhere they create a file called config file. In this file, what they put, IP port number, username, and the password. Okay, and that is a reason whenever you run kubectl command, they will always go retrieve this config file. Okay, retrieve all the information. Right, accordingly, they will go and connect and log in, and then ask the Kubernetes to do the further thing. Okay, and that is the reason if I run the command called kubectl and ask how many ports you already have, there is no, we haven't launched yet. And if you ask Kubernetes from a user that I want to launch a new pod, okay, launch a new pod from an image called HTTPD, and name of the pod is called my pod 1, for example. Okay, so I see here, this is just a command the way I explained to you. So this is a command we use. We take this command, I have this image, take this image and launch for me. What you launch? Container or port. There's no error come up. If you see here, get ports, they are launching the container. They're taking some time because they're going to internet, download this image. After download this image, they launch a content and then they show you it is running. Now it's running. Okay, so these are the basic command that you already know, I believe, or if you don't know, I already explained to you. Okay, now come back to our main topic for today. The topic is Jenkins integration with Kubernetes. Okay, now what we have to do? Okay, here I launch this container manually. Okay, so instead I type this command. I want some automation tool that's called Jenkins will do for me. So I will replace this guy and ask the Jenkins to do for me. Second thing, I will replace this command and I put the Jenkins and provide the Jenkins with plugins that I show you already will do for me. The only thing that Jenkins require from you that Jenkins don't know is where is your Kubernetes cluster. They don't know IP, port number, username, password. So only thing you have to provide to Jenkins is this config file. You provide this config file to the Jenkins. Otherwise, obviously, how Jenkins will know where the cluster is running and how they log in there, connect there, authenticate there. Okay, so we have to provide this information to the Jenkins. Okay, but before I provide this information, set up this thing. Okay, let me first explain you the use case so you can guys sync with me what is going on. Okay, why we need, how to connect with Jenkins to Kubernetes. I think you guys understood. We have plugin. To plugin, we'll provide this file. Provide this file to plugin. So Jenkins will know where the Kubernetes. They will contact to Kubernetes and launch the port there. So technically, this port I launch. Okay, let me delete this port. So have a clean, everything clean, all and all. So everything has been deleted. Okay, so right now this port you launch, I delete it. So I have clean environment. So instead I launch the port, I will tell my Jenkins, Jenkins will go and launch the port. Only thing Jenkins need plugin, I install. Only thing Jenkins need extra is config file that obviously I have to provide. How? I will explain you. And finally Jenkins will go and launch the port. And if Jenkins successfully launch the port, okay, so you can, if you come here again, you'll see a port launched. Okay, so I'll come back to this screen again, guys, to test. If Jenkins successfully launch the port, you will see if the port is running. Okay, so it means integration of Jenkins Kubernetes is successful. But before this, guys, we should know the use case. Why we need Jenkins to integrate with Kubernetes. Okay, so let me explain the use case in the way, same way that normally we keep on discussing. So again, we have a developer. Developer write a code. That's called app. They upload the code. They upload the code where in some SCM system like GitHub. Okay, and I told you guys in my last class also, with the code mostly nowadays it become a little practice. We also upload the Docker file. Okay, means they tell you that which kind of environment they need, or they tell you this code we have to provide in which kind of image. So that this demo I show you already in my last class. So developer also upload this Docker file. So what Jenkins do? They download this code. In this code, Docker file also come up. Jenkins will use this Docker file. Okay, and use this Docker file to run this file. It's called build. It's called Docker build. And after build, what we achieve, we get the container image. And after we get the container image, normally we store the container image in some central location. Let's say in the Docker hub, we store this image. Okay, so till this part discussion we have done already. Okay, done already. But in this entire process, okay, understand one thing. Before this, if you guys remember, in this image process, okay, and before we create the image, if a little bit more go a little bit more deep, the way I explained to you. So you know what we have done. Okay, my developer has write a code in Java as a code they provide me. Okay, and and this code we downloaded from GitHub, and because the Java code, so we call Maven and ask the Maven to build this code, means compile this code or create a package. And after package created, then we ask Docker file, Docker file, take this package, use some OS environment, have this package, let's say jar file or war file, and create one image, and then upload this image somewhere, let's say in Docker Hub. Okay, so in this, if we talk about this part number one and part number two, behind this part also we had done actually. If you remember my last practical, this part we have done. And guys, in my last class, I'll also explain one more thing to you, and this practical also show you somewhere in some of the classes, that if you want to do something like Maven build, it's good practice. Don't do on the Jenkins main master system. Create one worker node. Okay, I'm talking about worker node with respect to Jenkins, and give this responsibility of this one, of this job or this task to this worker node, and say, worker node, we have already uh, give you pre-created you with a Maven setup. So I'm going to give you the source code of Java. Use your Maven or Maven environment, and compile this code, create a package. After create the package, give back to me. Then I use Docker file to create. So this practice, guys, if you remember in my initial classes, when I take the class of Docker cluster, where I created a slave node, that time I take this class at this topic. Now it is your choice. Now it is your choice. This worker node you want to create statically, that we have discussed already, and do you want to create the worker node dynamically, that we have all discussed already. But I think, guys, the dynamic is very fascinating. Okay, and this is the way we always want to use. So what dynamic done have done for us? Okay, we ask Docker whenever need come up or whenever this kind of job run. So before we run the job, we'll contact to you. Okay, you will go and first launch this container. This called dynamic. After this container launch, it's like OS, connect to my master as a node, slave node, and then master will allocate this job to you. This is called job association or job binding. Again, guys, this practical also we have seen. So guys, I'm just trying to again summarize what we have done. So why I'm summarizing here, okay, here. Now you guys, now by having this summary, you now understand where in this process, Kubernetes fit. Okay, so in this process, guys, there's two places where Kubernetes will fit, and I'm going to show you both the demo to you. Okay, so where two places where Kubernetes fit. Let me again very quickly draw the same diagram so you can sync with me where it fit. Okay, again say developer, they upload the code, SCM. Let's forget for a minute about about Docker file. We download the code, Jenkins, and because this code is Maven, so Jenkins will contact. Let's say this is the Jenkins master. So Jenkins master need a worker node, and now worker node they have to contact Docker. But now, guys, the way I explain you already in my Kubernetes discussion. Okay, in the real world, we have lots of container to be run, and one single node is not enough to run all the container. We need lots of Docker engine and lot of Docker node, and every Docker node has own IP, IP1, IP2, IP3. So in this case, if you're asking your Jenkins to contact to Docker to launch a container, so which Docker engine they connect? IP1, IP2, IP10, or maybe one of the IPs might go down, maybe it's terminated. Okay, so my point, guys, over here is, so if you remember my Docker classes of Jenkins integration, I told you we have to install some Docker plugin, and the Docker plugin we have to go to Docker system, configure some port number there like 32375 something or 76 something, and then connect to Jenkins. But if one single dedicated Docker server running, that's okay. But I told you here already, there's hundreds of maybe tens of different Docker system running. Which one to connect, or which one will run forever? We don't know. Okay, so we can't rely directly on the Docker engine or the Docker node. Okay, but we need container. Why we need container? Because it's a dynamic. Okay, so here what can we do? If you want to have a container, in the inside the container you have Maven. Okay, so that your source code Jenkins will provide to this guy, and they compile and create a package. Okay, so for this container launch, I need Docker. For which IP, I don't know. Okay, so here we can take the help of Kubernetes. So rather than we contact directly with the Docker, okay, I ask my Jenkins contact to Kubernetes and give this responsibility to Kubernetes and say, Kubernetes, I have one image. From this image, you have to launch this container. And for launching container, we need Docker, but I don't know where the Docker is and how to manage Docker. You are the great tool who are very much mature in managing the container engine. So I am giving this image to you. You just go and find all the Dockers you have, maybe 1 or 10, where you find space available, resource available, contact to those Docker that you know, I don't know. Okay, and ask the Docker, use this image to launch the container. And what is this image? This image contain what? Maven. Maven. But understand one thing, guys, this image is not only contain Maven. Okay, this image from where you launch a container contain Maven. Okay, but one more thing they have is called Jenkins agents. Why Jenkins agent? Okay, same demo we have discussed in Docker class also. Because this contains a new container, they have their own IP address. Okay, and if you want some code provided to you by Jenkins, find Jenkins the one who will provide the code to you. So this code, or I can say there's some job to you. If Jenkins providing some job to you, then only way that Jenkins will provide job to you if you become the worker node. And if you want to work up node, you have to run the Jenkins agent. And after running the Jenkins agent, you have to integrate yourself, or you have to register yourself with the Jenkins master. The same kind of demo we had discussed in Docker class also. So technically, here the intention here is right. Same thing we're doing what we had done in the Docker classes, exactly same thing, same demo I've showed you there. Okay. Only difference is we just change the path or route. Rather than Jenkins directly contact to Docker, I remove this point because reliable connection. Okay, because we have bigger environment and Kubernetes is a great tool. So I asked Jenkins that Jenkins asks Kubernetes contact Docker. Docker will launch this container, but this container first behind the scene. Technically, for the Kubernetes perspective, this container is known as by some pod. And when you see this demo, you'll see in the Kubernetes some pod launched. Okay, but inside this pod we have container, and with container, what they have, Maven that we need here, plus Jenkins agent that will help you to connect to the Jenkins. Okay, so that kind of connection, and as soon as the container, this agent connected, what you will see, you will see here in the Jenkins, in the manage node, automatically one dynamically one agent come up. Same demo that I show you in Docker also, dynamic come up. But when they come up on demand basis. Okay, when we run a job, let's say I run this job. Okay, and this job need this container. So Jenkins behind the contact Kubernetes, launch a container first connect. We'll see one new executor or node come up, then the job will be assigned there. So this kind of route, guys, it works. So this is one of the use case where we can use Jenkins integration with Kubernetes, where my dynamic provisioning now is not managed by Docker. My dynamic provisioning of my Jenkins cluster of the worker node is managed by Kubernetes. So this is a better way to do it. In Docker also, that's a great way that I show you, but it's a better way to do if you have bigger environment and complex environment that is managed by Kubernetes or maybe managed by OpenShift if you know. Okay, so this is one of the use case. We have some more use case we'll discuss, but let's solve this particular use case today. Okay, but technically now you might understand now. So Kubernetes is a different tool altogether. Jenkins is a different tool altogether, but Jenkins is the one who's going to use Kubernetes. So in this context, Kubernetes is a server and Jenkins is a user of the client. Also, because Jenkins uses the client, so two things Jenkins need. One plugin for this kind of user commands, and one is the config file. Without the config file, how Jenkins will go and connect to the Kubernetes cluster. Two things Jenkins need. Okay, so let me show you guys how to do it. Okay, but for Jenkins perspective, if they use any of the tool or platform or technology who going to launch their their worker node dynamically or statically, for Jenkins perspective, this platform is known as cloud platform, right? And that is a reason that is a reason we have to go to dashboard in the manage Jenkins. Like you have to go to option called manage node and cloud, and get the same place we had been when I configure the Docker also. And here I'm not going to set a static node. I want my node to be dynamic. So I go to configure cloud. And if you remember in my last class, I have configured this Docker setup, but Jenkins directly configure Docker, but I don't want this. Either you can delete this if you want, or or you can go here and select Kubernetes. So this option come up, sorry, this option come up only when you install Kubernetes plugin. So if you install the Kubernetes plugin, this option automatically come up. Okay, so give me 1 minute, guys. So what I'm doing, I'm creating one doc for you. 1 minute. So this is the Jenkins class. So step by step, guys, you see what is going on. So 1 minute, please. So where it is. So first go here. So to install the plugin, go here, click and select the Kubernetes. Okay, they're asking just give the name, but the main thing is the Kubernetes details, cloud details. Okay, and they're very clear here. Sorry, they're very clear here. Tell me the URL of the Kubernetes, means where the Kubernetes is running. Okay, so either give the IP address here manually, or give the password, is called certificate also here manually, and maybe some more thing. Better, what can you do? Because these information, guys, normally in the Kubernetes is residing in one single file called config. Just provide this entire config file. So where you get this config file, multiple locations we have from where you get this config file. The better way to get this config file is from the Kubernetes master. Okay, so from Kubernetes master, guys, you can get this file very easily. Always, you can get from a base Windows also, because I have this file. But better in the simplest way, you can go to your master. So in my case, this is the master node in virtual machine they are running. Click on master, log in here, and if you launch this Kubernetes cluster with Minikube, so your username is Docker and password is TC user. So this is by default username and password here. And I log in with my root account with sudo. Okay, so your user is Docker and password over here is TC user. Is a default by default user. If you install OpenShift with Minikube. Okay, and here, guys, there's a folder called etc Kubernetes, and there's a file called admin.conf. This file contains all this information what I'm talking about. This file contains IP, port number, username, and the password. It's a very critical file. This contains user with the admin power. So anybody get this file, they will have an entire admin power of the Kubernetes cluster. But just for testing us, that's enough. That's okay. But technically, obviously, in the real world, we never provide a file that has admin power and admin password. Okay, so just keep this thing in mind. So I'm going to use this file. I mean, technically, this file I have to provide to Jenkins. Okay, so this file we will provide to Jenkins. So this is like a one config file we'll provide to Jenkins. So Jenkins will get the IP address and connect to this cluster and log in. And how I provide? So here, okay, here they ask you, tell me the credential. Okay, but right now I don't have a credential. So if you try to run a test connection, it will fail. So Jenkins trying to connect Kubernetes. Obviously, guys, I haven't provided any information about Kubernetes. Obviously, it will fail. They say, I don't know where you want to connect. It's fail. Okay. So again, I'm repeating, either type your own IP address and own keys and password kind of thing here. Either you type this way or better way in the Kubernetes. Normally, we provide the entire file. Let's go config file. Okay. So I have to provide this file to my Jenkins. Okay, so how to get this file? So obviously I can transfer it with SCP command or some other way. So I'm using WinSCP guys here in the Windows. Okay, this is a different VM. So I can copy from here and there. Okay, so in WinSCP, I type the IP of this system. I believe the IP of this system is 1900. Or maybe you can check here with ifconfig command with less. So see the second network card, it is 1 is the IP address in my case, and this is the very typical IP they have. Okay, and my username here I show you already is Docker. My password is TC user. Okay, and so I log in here. Okay, but understand one thing, guys. If you know anything about Linux, okay, right now I've logged in with a root account. A root account has a power to read this file. But here in WinSCP, I log in with Docker user. They have a limited user with limited power. Okay, so they don't have power to see this file. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm copying this file to a folder called home Docker. This is a home directory of Docker. Why I'm copying here? Because right now, when you log into the user, you land it to this folder only. See in the docker/home Docker. Refresh, this file come. And this is a critical file. You can see the right is RW. This --- means nobody can read this file. So if you try to download this file, and let's say in your some of the folder, let me download in my download folder. So if you try to download this file, it won't allow you. They say not allowed. Okay, so we have to give the power. So in the Linux, guys, if you want to give the power, so there's a command called chmod. We can give 644 to the file where you copied. Okay, so pretty simple Linux commands. Nothing again fancy here. Now I can download this file. So when we refresh, you can see permission change R come up means readable. I can download this file download. So this file downloaded in my Windows. That's all. That's what I need. Okay. Now, so because I log in my Jenkins from a Windows browser and same Windows, I have this file come up. Okay. So what does the file contain? Very quickly, if I show you. So this is my Windows command prompt. So I go to my download folder. And if I open Notepad and see what this file contain, this file name I downloaded, right? So what does this file contain? So this file contained, okay, the username and the password. Password by chance they give in the key format, okay, and plus the IP address of a cluster. The only thing I have to change here, you have to change your IP address by chance because the IP address of my Kubernetes cluster is not this one by chance. Okay, in my case is this one. So if you go again to your virtual machine and the ifconfig command, you can see it is one network card. Okay, this is the IP address 900. Okay, so type your right IP address. Most probably, guys, if you have Minikube, same IP address you also have. that's the only thing you have to change. So this is a config file known as Kubernetes config file. It contains IP address, port number, your username, and the password is called key. Okay, and that's what we need. So any Kubernetes client, either you or Jenkins, right? You want to connect to Kubernetes cluster, you need at least these 3-4 things in your command or maybe in the config file. Okay, so this config file I have here, it will be updated with the IP address. Okay, now what I'll do, I will provide this file to the Jenkins. How? So for this, If I again go back to just show you again quickly. So let me delete this. So you start from here, Kubernetes. just see tell Kubernetes cloud details. Okay, and here you update your credentials, add some adding some new credential in Jenkins. Okay, and this time this time my details is not using a password. My detail is there in one file, this config file. It is also known as secret file. So my detail is there in the secret file. So I'm adding the secret file option over here. The kind is secret file, and here they're asking you which file you have this detail. So I'll say in my download of Windows, this is the file I have. This contains secret. That's all. If you want to give some unique name, that's your choice. So this is my Kubernetes 8 cluster ID. That's some small detail I have give here. Okay, so that's the only thing you have to do over here in the terms of connectivity. Add. Now, if you see this name come up, and now if you try to test the connection, last time it was fail, but if you try to connect and everything is working good, you will see there is no issue connectivity, and finally my Jenkins connected, and they also tell you which Kubernetes version they have connected with. Okay, so this is the only thing you have to do right to have the connectivity. So what we achieved till date, okay, till now, my Jenkins now know where the cluster is and how to connect this guys. Okay, and after connect, Jenkins have a capability to ask this guy to launch the pod and delete the pod, whatever they want, they can do it. Because they log in with the admin user and they have entire power. So now Jenkins has entire power in the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so then here guys, this part we have done. One small thing guys I want to tell you here is to understand, if you are following along the way setup I have done in my laptop. Okay, so in my case, I am running with two virtual machines. One virtual machine guys I'm running with Red Hat 8 and one is launched by Minikube. By chance the IP of this guy is 192.168 99.100. Okay, and Red Hat IP maybe in my case is this one 1.5, and this system guys where my Jenkins is running. Okay, so technically, just as a very quick note of network connectivity, technically Jenkins would like to connect to Kubernetes, and they can only connect if you have networking available. Okay, so what I mean by what I'm trying to tell you guys here is, if you talk about your Linux OS where you launch the Jenkins, normally in this OS you have one network card only, and this network card maybe you kind of is netting or maybe breezing. What I mean by this, so so guys, maybe when you install the Red Hat 8 in your virtual machine, this is the system where my Red Hat 8 is running, inside this Jenkins running. If you right click, go to settings, go to networking. So in my case, they connect to Breeze, or maybe in your case, it might connect to Net. Okay, so these are two things normally you guys might have in your laptop, and because of these two things, we can go to internet. And why I need internet? Because Jenkins we have to download plugin, so I need internet. Okay, but if you go to Minikube, Minikube have one network card. There's a NIC card, and that is actually connected to a host only. So this is a different kind of connectivity. This is like a private LAN. It means if my Jenkins NIC card want to connect to this network card, okay, they can't connect because there are two different network settings adapters they have. Okay, so so what I'm talking about guys here is, if your intention here is the Jenkins system can connect to Minikube. Okay, so I don't want you to change the Minikube network settings because they're pre-planned come up, otherwise a lot of things might fail. So what can you do in the Jenkins? Go and add one more network card, and connect this network card with the host only. Same host only the Minikube has. So your Jenkins computer can connect to Minikube computer with this network card. And why second? Because if you add one network card Jenkins with host only, this network card don't have a capability to go to internet. Okay, in the Jenkins class, we have to go to internet a lot of time. So this second network card of my Jenkins system, with this kind of adapter, they can go to internet. So technically, my Jenkins system can go to internet, or Jenkins system can also connect to Kubernetes. So both the network connectivity they will have. Okay. So, and that is in my case, it is running. So if I show you in my system, I already added two network card. One bridge, so that my Jenkins system will go to internet, and second adapter I enable is called host only, that can connect to my to my Kubernetes. And here I use host only 7. In my case, I have 2, so I use 7. Maybe in your case, your number is different, but important thing is whatever you connect, it should be same as Minikube. So go to Minikube. In networking, net is they use for different purpose. Second, they connect with 7. So both the side network adapter host only should be same. Okay, and how to connect? You have to first shut down the OS. After OS shut down, this option come up, tick here and select. For example, if you want to connect third card, it won't allow. You to first shut down this OS, then click third, and you can also add one more if you want. Okay, so this is a pretty simple thing. So I just want to tell you. Otherwise, if you've done all the things till now here, and if you think thing is not working, so most probably the challenge is not because of Jenkins or Kubernetes. The challenge because of network connectivity. So just do this connectivity over here. Okay. So guys, can you hold for a second, please? Okay, so this part is done here. Till here the thing is done. Okay, now thing is tested, working good. There's no challenge. The next thing is, okay, here guys, interesting thing is I'm the Jenkins, but here they're asking me where your Jenkins URL. Okay, so what I mean by this, actually they're asking you finally here in this page here, they say the duty of Kubernetes here is to launch the pod or the container. Okay, but the pod and container here is like OS, but this OS has one more responsibility. They have to work as a Jenkins worker node. So these guys should know where the Jenkins is running. Okay, obviously, guys, if they don't know where the Jenkins master is running, how they can associate. So the pod launch. Okay, so in my pod, my Jenkins agent, we will provide this information where the Jenkins master. So that's what guys they're asking here. So this line means when Kubernetes launch a pod, they will provide this information to the pod, and pod will use this information. And if the Jenkins agent is there, they get this information and they connect to the Jenkins master. So in my case, guys, obviously this same IP will come up here. So I'm copying pasting here. So in this protocol, this IP and this port number is the one where my Jenkins running. Or technically, I'm saying that when pod launch by Kubernetes, my pod will use this IP address to connect to Jenkins as a worker node. Only if pod is launched from image and that image has Jenkins agent available. Obviously, otherwise there's no meaning to connect, because in the worker node you need Jenkins agents. Okay, this information is very important, otherwise thing won't work. Okay, and any other thing, nothing special. You can give a pod a label. So anybody who know Kubernetes, we can tag the pod. So I'm just, it is not important here if you want to add. So let me add here. I can say my tag is Jenkins sleeve, or let's say Jenkins S or worker. Okay, and let me give the value, let's say nothing, let me give the value worker 1. Okay, so this is just extra names I'm giving, nothing special. Something somewhere other purpose in the Kubernetes we use, but it's just we are tagging it. If you don't tag, it will be your choice. Okay, so this part is done. Anything else here to do? Very interesting thing, if you guys are wondering, technically Jenkins will contact to Kubernetes and asked to launch the pod. Pod is what? Is a container. But for the container, we need an image. Okay, so if we're Jenkins going to Kubernetes, obviously we need an image. But so without the image, there's no meaning of container. Okay, but interesting thing is, guys, this setup is very much famous, very much common. Okay, so community of Jenkins has created one image, and they publish this image already in the Docker Hub, and they hard coded inbuilt this image in this plugin. We can change if you want, but they hard coded inbuilt this plugin, right? So what this image will do? So so technically you don't have to provide any image here. If you want, you can provide, but you don't have to provide. Okay. So whenever Jenkins contact Kubernetes, they will download this by default image from the hub, launch the pod, and this image contains Java Jenkins agent. Jenkins will go and contact to Jenkins master for to tell that I am worker node. After this guy become worker node, what a job Jenkins want to assign in the future, they can assign. So technically, you don't have to provide any image. Okay, but yeah, by chance you have to change some image, there's a different point. So in the pod template here, over here, you can provide extra image. So if you add a new pod template, and guys here, if you see the pod details, here you can add some container details and some other image details if you want to add some extra thing for the pod. But don't worry, here they give you by default, we can use that one. Only thing that I want to change here in the pod template is, understand one thing, guys, pod is very important for us, is a container, but this container is a worker node for us. Okay, and you guys know in the worker node, we always set a level. Why? This level is not Kubernetes level, this is a worker node level. Why? When we run the job in the Jenkins, we always assign the job with sub level. Okay. Normally we assign the job with node, but right now this node is not available. It will launch when the job run. So instead we give the node name, worker node IP address. We can give the level and tell my job, when you run, you assign yourself to this level. And because this level is for this pod, so we launch this pod on the fly. So similar kind of thing I show you in the Docker also. So my point over here is, you have to just give your pod a level. For example, I'm just giving my pod 1. This is a name of the pod. This is not important, but important thing is level. So let's say this is my dynamic Kubernetes pod agent, something like this. So this is very important. This name, where I'm going to use, I will show you in a minute. Otherwise, there's a lot of options here. We can quickly tweak and change for multiple regions. So if you know Kubernetes, you know volumes, you know environment variable, you know secret, containers, right? Retention, never. So if you know Kubernetes, right, these are the things that normally we use in Kubernetes a lot. So almost everything of the Kubernetes world you can do from here. Right now, this is not Kubernetes class. I don't want to focus more over here. Okay, so that's the only setup right now you have to do. Okay, let me save this. And now what you'll see. Okay, now what you'll see, let me again open this page. In new tab. Right now I don't have any worker node, and you see worker node will come on the fly. But today, guys, the worker node will give you is not provided by Docker, it's provided by Kubernetes. So if I go to my Kubernetes command line also to see, so when the worker node launch, technically it's launched by pod. So you can see automatic one pod launch. And who launched this pod? Jenkins. But when Jenkins launch, when job run. Okay. So what I'm doing here, I'll go to my dashboard. Let me create one new job. Let's say this is Jenkins Kubernetes 1 job. Okay. And guys, one thing, whenever you create a job, you normally assign the job. And for assigning the job, you have to give the IP address of the slave node. But in dynamic world, we don't know the IP address because slave node is not there, right? That is the reason we have to use a level. Okay, so here, guys, we see here the level that I created here. This one is come up here, D cube dynamic pod agent name. So just you have to just attach this level. So by this level, we are telling to the to Jenkins that uh, sorry. So we are telling to Jenkins that there is no node available, but they say we found this guy in one cloud of Kubernetes. When this job run, first we launch this node for you, the slave node, and we launch this node from the image, and the image content Jenkins agent, they will first connect, and after they connect, you will see the name here. Then after node come up, then we assign this job to this node. But by the time, guys, this node would be finally my Kubernetes port. Okay, that's the thing. And now whatever you want to do there, your choice. So here what I'm just doing one small thing. There's just running some basic command just for testing. So I'm just running a date command over there just for testing. Right? So pretty simple job. But the interesting thing here is, if everything working good, see guys, here this is a Kubernetes different system altogether, just a Jenkins different system altogether, and I'm running the job. Again, you see what happened on the fly. You see, job one need this guy, but this is not available. So Jenkins will contact to Kubernetes. See guys, technically launch here quickly. So they launch this pod and they're waiting. So if I go and refresh here, one pod is started. See here, this one started. It's not visible here, but it is here. They started. Okay, so this and they started, and if you see, they waiting for this pod. They are running again. They stop. So you know what happening here, guys? Actually, if you see a job is not running, is not run, is keep on pending offline. Again doesn't, again offline. So technically, you know what happened? You know what happened? There's some challenge. There's some issue. Okay. So according to Kubernetes, see here, automated my port that terminated. Again they start. Again they run. Again they're running. Again error come up. They terminate. So technically there's some challenge, maybe in the port or maybe in some kind of connectivity. Okay. What challenge we have over here? So technically, from the Jenkins perspective, there is no SS way to see what challenge we are having here. Okay, why my port keep on restarting? Actually, not restarting; they're terminating. Okay, so what challenge we have, we don't know. So only way to find out the challenge is that we have to do very quickly. So in kubectl, we have a command called logs, and what I'm doing here before this guy terminate, let me try to very quickly. Yeah, sorry, do very fastly here. So one more time, let me try. Okay, so kubectl, I don't know, kubectl logs. Get this file. Come on, I don't know why. One more try. By chance, I know the reason why they are taking kubectl. Now I don't know why my speed becomes so slow. Let me do one more try in this way. So technically, logs is command kubectl. Okay, so while container is running, that time if you try to see what error inside the container is running, you can see from here. So let me copy this name, paste over here. Now, yeah, it's come off. Okay, so I go inside my running container that time before the error come up. And my container is always, they throw me error and they say, we trying to connect to Jenkins. Things look good, right? It's good, but we are not able to connect to this IP. And it's one thing, guys, whenever you are connecting, okay, your port or in the port, your program is running called Jenkins agents. And guys, one program want to connect to some other program, IP and port number is to just to reach there, but you have to always connect to some API or some kind of program. So Jenkins agent guys, right now, whatever we are using here, okay, they are actually connecting to this IP port number with some API. Which API they're connecting? This IP address and this port number with this API. And they say this API is not available. Okay, means API means there's some kind of uh, technical in this setup. Jenkins need some extra port number. So technically, my Jenkins agent will connect to this port number, and via this port they connect to main Jenkins. So it is like a proxy, or it is also known as tunnel, something like this. So there's no tunnel kind of proxy available here in the Jenkins. Okay, that's what guys this error is talking about. So how to resolve this? So for this, you have to go to Jenkins. Okay, let me first close this job. Okay, time at the job. Okay, so go to Jenkins again, and in the manage Jenkins, and in the global security part, go to global security. Okay, and there's the guys option called agent TCP inbound agent port. So technically about if any agent trying to come in to register themselves, so this is the port number we are going to use. This is called tunnel port, this one. So it is disabled by default. That easy reason guys, this error was saying this API, this listener, this port number is not available. Okay, so we have to enable, and you can give some port number. 50,000 is very commonly used port in this case in Jenkins. You can give any port number, that would be your choice, but there's very commonly used port over here, 50,000. Okay, and save it. And before I save, guys, I want to show you one more small thing very quickly. If I go to my Jenkins system, okay, and you guys know one command called netstat-tnlp, and you search for Java, you can see only this port running because this port is run by Jenkins. But as soon as you save this setting over here, now Jenkins behind the scene start one more port number. See here, 50,000. Again by Jenkins, Java and Jenkins only. But the duty of this port number is to work as a tunnel. Tunnel means uh, when any kind of dynamic port start, okay, and this port will connect to this tunnel, and this tunnel they will register to the master. Okay, so that's what guys they work here. Okay, so for this you have to just tell one more thing to a port where your tunnel running. Because your port doesn't know where the tunnel running, that easy reason guys this error was again coming, where the tunnel running. So technically in your setting of your cloud of Kubernetes, if you go to again detail, okay, where you tell the Jenkins URL, here you will also tell where the tunnel is. So in my case, the tunnel is running in the same IP address, but on the port number 50,000. Even though see the days also they are also talking about where Jenkins need to tap a tunnel, so where it is running. So in my case, the same IP, but on 50,000 port they are running. So any port start dynamic agent come up, they will connect to this one. They will automatically connect dynamically to my Jenkins. So this is a way they connect. So this is an error, guys, and you can solve this error by this. Okay. Now I think now it will work properly. Okay, and that is the reason, guys. My port is keep on they start. So Kubernetes side the port start, but port we have a Java agent. Java is not able to connect. So the agent fail or agent program fail to content fail. If content fail, the port fail. So the agent guys they keep on failing. Okay. Now let me run my job again. At this time you will see that my job start. They're waiting to launch a new agent. Okay. Here port start container creating, and if you see here very quickly, let me go. See here one more start port, and I refresh. They connect in a minute. After they connect, my job will start. When they connect, when my container is started, my container now started. Now if I refresh it, they are actually registering, right? After job registering, then my job will start. So again it's offline. because my port is not yet connected. Now after connected, see guys, my job is started. It means behind the scene, this guy connected. Okay, my port is running. And after my job done, this guy will remove. When my job completed, my job is still running. Okay, after my job run, they will disconnect. So again, similar kind of practical if you see here that you see in Docker, but it is more mature practical. Now everything, your dynamic provisioning of your slave node is going via Kubernetes. Kubernetes is the one who manages. Now it is your choice. You're running in your cloud, in GCP cloud, Azure cloud, AWS cloud, local cloud, OpenStack, or maybe in your local laptop. It will be your choice. So for your Jenkins perspective, Jenkins running your laptop, just provide the config file, and automatically Jenkins will connect to any of the cloud in the world. So anybody guys have done like Azure training right now under me, or maybe GCP training. So we also launched Kubernetes cluster there. Just get the config file from there, provide to Jenkins. That's all. Run the job. Finally, your job will run. Uh, Agent will run directly on the cloud, and they connect to your Jenkins, and all the things will be automatically done. So very much interesting. Okay, my job run, refresh. This one deleted, or port deleted. Everything is done automatically. Okay, and but my Jenkins job is run, and if I see the output, okay, so this job is provided to this agent, the dynamic provision by this template. Template means from my cloud. This template come up. Anybody who know by chance Kubernetes, so they might know this file is a Bible file of port definition, what kind of port file they created, where I provide Jenkins tunnel informations, all the things. But finally, the important thing is, does it run date command? Yes, it's successful. Okay, so that's what it is. Now I just run date command, but whatever command you have inside your pod, you can run. Maybe you have Maven command, you have other commands, whatever command, your Tomcat, Apache server, whatever you have there in your image, you can run there. Okay. So that's all, guys, the practical of how to integrate Kubernetes. This is one of the use case that Kubernetes help you to launch the dynamic provisioning of the worker node. Okay. Second use case, we can use Kubernetes to launch our deployment, your app. Okay. So that will be a different way. So what I mean by this, in my next class, guys, I will talk about what I mean by this. But that's all, guys, for today. Any questions, any query if you have, you can ask me. Very interesting, practical, very much useful. It is right. So any questions if you have, guys, you can ask me. Why feel? Because Gaurav, the plugin that I by default Kubernetes use in Jenkins here, I'm just talking about the image that already have Jenkins agent installed, and this agent by default work on JNLP protocol, and they normally use Jenkins tunnel port. So there's multiple way to connect worker node to the Jenkins, but the image that you use by chance by default in the Kubernetes, they use tunnel process to connect. So that I enable that port number so that the connectivity done. So no, Navneet, we also register. We also register. What do you say? In the Docker also, we have to also register the agent, right? We also register the agent in Docker class also. But registering the agent to the Jenkins, we have multiple different ways. Okay, it depends which kind of agent we have. So by chance, the agent that is provided by default by by Kubernetes plugin, they need tunnel port number. Okay, this approach they use. But in my Docker class, the image that I use is different image. They have an agent, but the way the agent used to have connectivity, we don't have to use tunnel port. Okay, so it's vary from agent to agent which type of protocol they use behind the scene for connectivity. Okay, so But agent we need, that's for sure. Yes, Piyush, almost everything in the Kubernetes uh, thing we can integrate with Jenkins. Almost everything. I think there's a lot of tool like Jenkins, like we have Circle CI, we have Team City. So these are also like a competitive tool of Jenkins. Again, they are great tools, but Jenkins is normally a market standard for automation normally. So, Apur, we can also do the same setup in AWS. As such, network changes, I don't think so. You have to do there. I don't know what kind of network card you use or what ENI you use there for opens for Kubernetes. But technically, if you just go for normal issued instance, whatever network card they provide you, if you don't do any change in the network card, so there is no network change you need in the cloud. Okay, so what network change I was talking about today in virtual machine or virtual box, so that thing you don't need in the AWS cloud. They will have a just simple thing is just ping it from Jenkins system. Can you able to ping Kubernetes master? If your pinging is done, it means you don't need anything. So the simple thing is just try to ping. Both the things work. Pinging is there, is doing. So there is no change in the network we need. How to image custom image? I show you there. We can change the image. So, this options we have. If you want to change by default image, they use something. But if you want to change your own custom image, okay. So here in the port details, in the port template details, here you can change, right, a content template, and here you can give your image name. If you want to use other image, right, you can tell which image to use, which command you want to run this image if you want to have something. So here you can go and change your image. Okay. So take one class Terraform concept. Definitely, of course, I try to take kernel Terraform or and maybe Ansible also. I'll try. So that's all, guys. You guys may have few more questions, query. If you do practice this, most of the questions will solve, or other thing will become in the upcoming classes. So those things will be updated, will be discussed there, right? So that's all, guys, for today. See you tomorrow with some more new interesting practicals. Bye. Take care.